So, for as many times, Jason, as I've looked at Oklahoma's schedule this offseason and looked at Texas's schedule, I've not looked at them at the same time because I keep hearing about how much more difficult Oklahoma's schedule is. Now, this is within the SEC. Of course, Oklahoma does not play a difficult non-conference schedule, and Texas goes to Michigan. But within the SEC, let's do this. Rank Oklahoma's opponents in the SEC toughest to easiest.
Okay. I would go. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. So are we when we rank these, are we looking at team combined with venue or just
Yes.
team?
Yes.
Okay.
What are going to be the toughest games, top to bottom?
I would say, um,
Can't get that any smaller.
yeah,
So
no,
LSU's at the bottom.
yeah, I think I still would say Alabama is the toughest, even though with that being that game's at home, I still would consider that game the toughest because I know we don't have rankings yet. I think these are probably post spring rankings from FBS schedules or
Yeah.
something like that. Um, so yeah, I think Alabama probably is the toughest. Now, when you look at now the next one is interesting. I probably would go. I mean, I'll just go Texas because it's always one of the um, toughest games of the season, regardless. I mean, it'll be interesting to see when the rankings come out, but everybody loves Texas. I mean, I've heard multiple prognosticators have them in the SEC championship game. I think they'll be good. I don't know that they'll be quite that good, just in terms of what they've lost off of that team over a year ago. But that game's it's always different. So I would put Texas number two. I think the next toughest one for me, uh, probably probably because of the environment, I would say at LSU. I know they've got a lot to replace on the offensive side of the ball, specifically at quarterback and receiver, but that's just such a tough place to play. I would put that there. Um, I think I would probably put Ole Miss next, just because the combination of environment and how um, good they're going to be. I think it does give Oklahoma a little bit of a benefit, the fact that that will be an early game, and it may not be quite as rowdy as an environment, as you would normally expect to see. Um, so I would go there. The only game after Alabama is LSU, right, on the schedule.
Yes.
There's nothing. Okay. Okay. Here's where it gets a little bit tough. I would say at Missouri next. Then I would go at Auburn. Tennessee at home, and then South Carolina at home. I hope I didn't miss
See,
anyone.
that's all 8. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we can't represent this graphically to put them side by side because that's what I would like to do. But I'm just curious to see how this looks next to a Texas schedule, top to bottom. So with Texas, throw out the non-conference games. All right, so we're looking at okay. I think we got them all in Texas A&M. Yeah, they're all there. So how would you rank Texas?
I would probably go. I would go Georgia number one, even though that's in Texas. That's still their toughest game, I would probably. That one's tough. I would probably go, just because of the newness of the rivalry and it being at Kyle Field. I'll go at A&M number 2. Oklahoma number 3. And gosh, you've got like bottom half of the SEC here the rest of the way.
I'm missing somebody. Oh, Mississippi State's up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you've answered my question already, but keep going.
The fact that it's on the road, I'll go at Arkansas next.
Okay.
But and then I would go Kentucky.
Okay.
Florida. Mississippi State. And at Vanderbilt.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever done this with these two schedules for as much as we have, and we have otherwise talked about these two teams and the comparisons of their personnel and their schedules. Wow, it's not even close. So
I've kind of asked Mark, like,
wow,
what did Oklahoma what did Oklahoma do or wrong, or what did Texas do? And you have to maybe in year 3 and year 4 maybe it'll flip a little bit, right? But and some of these are, Florida's going to be down this year. I think we all believe that's probably going to be the case, right?
Yeah.
Arkansas is a little bit down this year, the way it looks, but the fact that they get Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and and Oklahoma has Tennessee, LSU, Alabama.
Think of it this way. They play each other, so throw that game out. So they've got 7 opponents, and I have no issue with the way you ranked either one of them. You could squabble about one spot here and there, but throw a blanket over for Oklahoma, LSU, Ole Miss, Mizzou, and maybe even Auburn and Tennessee if they play a little bit better. For Texas, after Texas A&M, throw a blanket over Arkansas, Kentucky, Florida, Mississippi State. So if Texas A&M is Texas's second toughest game, and Tennessee is Oklahoma's second easiest game, those Texas A&M and Tennessee, if anything, Tennessee's going to be ranked higher than Texas A&M in the preseason rankings.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah.
This is not even close. Wow.
It's not. No, it's not. And so that kind of lends to, Phil Steele's comparison right there, right? With Oklahoma, feeling Oklahoma might be the 7th most talented team in the country, but at the end of the day being number 20. And so if Oklahoma had Texas's schedule, I would have no issues with 9-3, 10-2. No issue. And maybe that's why Texas is being considered, Mark, as a team that a lot of people think can make it to the SEC championship game, because they should not, and I don't say challenge, right? I mean, because it's the SEC, you don't know what's going to happen. But outside of Georgia, and not like that's not a winnable game, like they've got that game at home. Like, you could very much see this Texas team 1 loss, 2 losses in the SEC. Like, who's going to beat them other than Georgia and Oklahoma, maybe?
How do the schedulers not? I would think that there's a science to this. It's not It's not an art. It's generally a science.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then if you get done, if you think you have a great formula, but you get done, then before you release it, you obviously start to make comparisons and say, okay, let's make sure, let's double check this and triple check that. And you're doing all these cross analysis. Here's one simple solution. On October 26th, now this doesn't balance the scales, but it would be a huge step in the right direction. On October 26th, just switch. Texas plays Ole Miss and Oklahoma plays Vandy.
Yeah. I mean, I think OU fans would love to see that have a, I mean, because Vanderbilt is the SEC's version of what used to be Kansas, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, absolutely, I would,
And this
and it's,
I'm
and the
sorry,
thing that
Jason. I was just going to say this shouldn't happen.
no, I mean, it should be a little bit more, definitely more balanced than what it is. But I think Oklahoma people are not really. I think maybe they don't feel like they're in a position to complain about this because I think Oklahoma's just so excited to be in the SEC. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So I think it's not, if this was now. I think the thing that'll be interesting to think through, Mark, as we go forward. It sounds like there's a lot of momentum to move to a nine game SEC slate next year. So what does that do to that? And I don't know if that next year or when it would happen, Mark, but I know that there's some momentum around that. I heard that through some of the SEC media day things. So what does that do to that schedule? So yeah, I think it'll be very intriguing to look at. But yeah, they definitely did Oklahoma no favors in that schedule. I think a couple the there's a little bit of saving grace in some of this, but not much, right? I mean, the one thing that you think about, maybe you've caught Auburn in a good year to go there, right? Maybe you've caught LSU in a little bit of a good year to go there, but my gosh, Ole Miss is going to be a top 5, 7 team probably. Auburn's going to be undefeated by the time. I mean, I know that I just said that they caught a little bit of a break, but Auburn's probably going to be 4-0 when Oklahoma goes and plays there. Right? I think they've got Cal. I think that's probably their best opponent that they face before hosting Oklahoma. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things, Mark, where if this was like year 5 in the SEC, I think there would be an uproar. But I think it's one of those things where, hey, you're letting us sit at the table with you. It's okay. Like, even though that you guys are eating a 5-course meal and I'm eating McDonald's, it's okay. We just want to. We're just happy to be here right now. So I think that's really the thought process that they probably have going on right now. Not only that, they don't have 11 a.m. games, right? I think there's 2 on the schedule, potentially 11 to 12, and so I think Oklahoma had like 5 or 6 last year. So
They had 2 other options here as well. Last weekend of September, give Texas Auburn on the road and give Oklahoma Mississippi State. Or on November 23rd, give Texas Alabama and give Oklahoma Kentucky. They had 3 opportunities just to make a quick flip and give it more balance.
yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy that that it's not more balanced. And I'm like you. I would be interested to see what was the thought process going in terms of how that was selected and what the decision making criteria was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jason, if you had something to talk about for about 30 seconds, I was just curious to add up the records of these teams last year.
Yeah.
You
So
said it was pretty quiet on the recruiting front, but whatever you want to
yeah.
talk about, it's fine.
Well, I was just gonna say I was looking up the schedule here, and as we were talking a little bit about Auburn. So Auburn has so first of all they don't leave um, Jordan Hare Stadium before they play Oklahoma. They play Alabama A&M at home. They play Cal at home. They play New Mexico at home, and they play Arkansas at home before hosting Oklahoma. So there's a good chance that they're going to be 4-0, and probably if they're 4-0, they're going to be ranked in the top 25 um, when you uh, when you look at that. But Auburn's schedule, I mean, just kind of thinking about schedules, like their schedule is bizarre. So their first 5 games are at home. They don't leave the state of Alabama until October. So, but they have 3 back-to-back-to-back tough games when they go to Georgia, to Missouri, to Kentucky in consecutive weeks. And so they don't come back to Alabama until November, but then they're in Alabama the rest of the way. They host Vandy, they have an off week, they host Louisiana Monroe, and um, they host Texas A&M before going to Alabama on November 30th. So um, I think it'll be intriguing, Mark, when you look at the schedule when they play these games. How many how many top 25 games is Oklahoma going to have? I mean, potentially. I mean, I don't know. From a mid-major perspective, Tulane's one of the best mid-major non P4 programs. So you could make an argument that they're Tulane, Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU. So not what 8 of the 12 games that Oklahoma's going to have are probably going to be against ranked teams. So
Oklahoma's schedule, the opponents that they have in the SEC. Well, we might as well, to actually vet it out all the way, we could include Texas. Their opponents went 76-29 last year. And Texas's opponents went 52-48. They're 24 games better.
that's insane. But I mean, if you want to go further on this, Mark, you can. If you're a conspiracy theorist, right? I think and it's going to come. It's not going to come great coming from me being an Oklahoma guy, but I think there's a lot of momentum. I think people want Texas to be good. People want Texas to be a team, and I don't know that they necessarily. I'm not saying that they want Texas to win the SEC in their first year. I know the SEC would not want that to happen, right? I mean, but I think just generally speaking, nationally, I think people want Texas to be good. So I don't know. It's it's kind of bizarre. I think you could probably look at these teams and it may be vice versa, right? Like Oklahoma's the number 7th ranked team in terms of talent, but are 20. Texas could be, and I don't know what he has them ranked, but they could be 12 or 14, and they could be probably top 5 because of the schedule. Now again, I mean, I think it's it's a balancing act, Mark, because you've got Texas probably has two. I mean, they have two tougher opponents than Oklahoma does, right? When you look at Georgia, and then when you look at Michigan, but both of those games are at home, though, right? I believe Georgia's at home and Michigan's at
At
home.
Michigan.
Oh, at Michigan, okay.
Yeah.
But so still, those are two. But the the totality of the schedule is is tough. But I don't know. I mean, and I'm like you, I haven't really spent a lot of time just really looking at schedules within the SEC in terms of, who I think could win, um, the SEC championship. But it's they're tough. Like these schedules are tough. Like Alabama, I mean they host Georgia in late September, but they go to Tennessee, they go to LSU, they go to Oklahoma. So I think whoever wins I don't know that we're going to see an undefeated SEC team this year. So which gives more. I mean, and then Georgia, they go to Kentucky, to Alabama, to Texas, to Ole Miss. So it's going to be. I say that to say, Mark, I think it's going to be. I wouldn't be even remotely surprised to see Texas make the SEC championship game because of the schedule. And I think Oklahoma would have an argument if they were in the schedule as well.
I possibly am making a video right now for myself. Here are the SEC records. Oklahoma's schedule went 36-20 in the SEC, and Texas's went 19-37.
Wow. It just makes you think. I mean, it does. Like you just love to know what the thought process was there.
And I looked at it for, we looked at it for a few minutes here. And again, I found 3 weekends where and it even lined up correctly home and road. They could have just went,
Yeah.
flipped them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.